have you ever said to yourself, I can't afford this program, or I can't get my insurance to cover this therapy, or I can't find time to sit down for meals with my family, or I just can't do one more thing? Okay, I get it. Life is really full. Parenting, very overwhelming. Feeding therapy is not just one more thing in a sea of impossible things. It is many things, which I think is why some parents can shut down when it comes to feeding therapy. But here's the truth. Saying the words, I can't, shuts the door. And switching to how can I opens possibilities. Okay. Today we're talking about the most important mindset shifts that I can see in families who finally make progress with feeding. It's not always a supplement. It's not a strategy always. It's usually a question. How can I? Okay. I can't is a mindset trap. All right. Every time you say I can't, your brain stops working on looking for a solution. It instead starts to look for evidence that reinforces that statement, that you're stuck, that there's no way out, that you can't, right? So if you say you can't, your brain's going to come up with 10 reasons that you can't, okay? I promise you, it will. It is like how your brain works, literally, quite literally, okay? So when you're raising a child who has a feeding issue, you're navigating maybe things like ARFID or pediatric feeding disorder, sensory issues, anxiety. We need your brain working. We need it on our side, okay? You need curiosity, flexibility, resourcefulness. That all starts with a little reframe. How can I? Okay, so I've used this myself to reframe things. Sometimes things seem absolutely impossible. But when we say, how can I? Our brain starts looking for solutions to how we can. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Okay, I can't afford this, right? And sometimes we hear this from our families. They call, they're looking for insurance. I can't afford to pay out of pocket for this. We hear it all the time. Instead, how can I afford this? Can I use a payment plan? Can I cut back someplace else? Can I ask a grandparent or a family member to support us? And I'm going to be really raw here, okay? And we hear this all the time. We have usually parents calling in tears that their child only eats 6 foods, 3 foods, even 10 foods. And every mealtime is a disaster. There's tears. Why is soccer coming first? Why is Disney more important? There, I said it. But we hear this all the time. I can't pay for this, but we're actually heading to Disney for a week. Well, if you're going to Disney for a week, then you can. You're just choosing not to, right? We all love to have fun. We want to give our kids amazing experiences and wonderful memories of their childhood. But sometimes, if you stop to really think about it, are you doing things that just make your kids like you? Or are you parenting a child that needs your help, that can't do it on their own? If they could do it on their own, they probably would have at this point. It's not a judgment. It's a gut check, okay? Feeding is the thing that brings the most stress into your home. Why isn't that what we're tackling first? Why isn't that the priority, right? So when we shift our mindset to how can I solve this problem? There must be a way. It opens us up to possibilities, maybe ones that we're not able to see when we're narrowly thinking, I can't do it, right? You can't build connection, confidence, or long-term health on a foundation of constant stress and avoidance. It's just not going to happen, okay? But I really want to stress, specifically for this example, just because we do hear it so often and because it is, I'd say, a pet peeve of mine, feeding is not a luxury, okay? It is a necessity, It's not something that happens once in a while. Your child eats multiple times a day. Every day they have to eat for the rest of their entire lives on earth. Okay. And I genuinely cannot think of a reason other than shelter and basic safety that should come before your child's ability to eat a variety of healthy foods comfortably and without fear. Not sports, not vacations, not another activity to keep them busy, because feeding isn't just nutrition, which is super important. It's also quality of life. And if I said something that stirred something in you or triggered you in some way, that's okay. Maybe it just means you're being called to do something differently. Maybe it means that there's some truth there. Maybe it needs to be a change, to finally prioritize the thing that affects everybody else every single day. Okay. So that's just like been on my heart. So it's not, again, meant to shame anyone. Everybody wants special memories, but sometimes people just don't want to make it a priority. And I'm not always sure why, but I want you to really just think carefully about what is my priority here? What is most important here? Okay. But having that shift might open the doors to, how can I go on this trip and afford this really important thing that my child really needs? And I'm not saying you have to pay for our program. I'm just saying you have to get them help. You can't just ignore the problem. Okay. So it's not about, I want you guys to pay me. I'm just saying you have to get them help with someone, okay, who knows what they're doing with this. Okay. That's all I'm saying. But how can I just opens up that possibility of, well, maybe I can do both. Maybe there's a way I haven't thought of yet. Or what are some ways I could be more creative about this? But if you shut yourself down with an I can't, your brain is never going to come up with that solution. Okay. You have to change your wording. Literally change the words that you are speaking, because your brain will adjust to whatever words you are speaking. All right. Heard this also. I can't get the school district to cover this. I can't get insurance to cover it. It's too hard. Instead, how can I get support with this? We need support with this. It's very important. How can I make this work? Are there other parents who have gotten reimbursed from this? Yes, the answer is yes. Are there other school districts who pay for this? The answer is yes. Have I submitted the right paperwork? The answer is probably no. Did we try to appeal the denial? Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't do it properly or have not asked the right questions, right? You might need to get persistent. You might need support. But the truth is, people do get feeding therapy covered. And it's often because they didn't stop at I can't. It's often because they said, how can I make this work? Okay. So we actually developed, for all of our current clients, they get free support with this, the insurance toolkit to help hopefully walk you through exactly how to get reimbursed, even if you don't have out-of-network benefits. There is something called the gap exclusion. And because we are so special and specialized, being able to basically argue that we're not just a run-of-the-mill insurance speech therapy clinic, this is specialized support, and you kind of need to cover this because my kid needs it, because it's really like preventative at this point, because there's going to be serious problems if we don't fix this, right? There's ways to use medical lingo kind of against them, the insurance companies, things like that. Okay. How can they learn in school if they're starving all the time and they don't have any foods that help them focus their energy, or they don't sleep well? How are they going to learn in school? How is that supporting their education? Right? So there's maybe something you didn't explore yet, but you've got to stay open to the how. How can I? Okay. I've heard this one before. I can't make time for this. You want me to watch videos? You want me to read things? You want me to sit with my kids while they eat? I don't have time for that. Okay, hold on. Let's back up. How can I create time for this? How can I create some space? This is really important. How can I figure this out? Can I let go of something less important? Can someone else help with pickup or laundry? Can we sit down for just one meal a day and start there? Parents tell me, I want my kids to eat better, but I don't have time to work on it. My response, how much time are you spending worrying, crying, arguing about food, buying food that they don't eat? A lot, okay? It doesn't need to take hours a day, but it does need intention. So again, reframe it. Not, I can't, I'm too busy. How can I make this work in my busy schedule? There's always a way. There's always a solution, but your brain won't look for it unless you shift your language, okay? So what shifting how can I actually does. When you start asking this question, your brain will find answers, like I said. You start moving. You become a problem solver. How can I? You're not a prisoner, okay? Feeding becomes something you're working towards, not something you're drowning in, okay? It's the most stressful part of your parenting journey right now. Then it deserves your energy, your investment, your action, and your time. Food isn't just food. It's connection. It's health. It's freedom. It's confidence. Next time you catch yourself saying, I can't, you have to just take that breath. Ask yourself, how can I make it happen? The question might change everything. I know I personally use this all the time to solve problems because I can't solve a problem if I shut myself down with I can't. And I teach this to my son too. Say, that's not how we solve problems. Ask, how can I fix this? How can I solve this? And you will figure it out. And we always do. And guess what? If he says, I can't do it, I said, well, not with that attitude. You're never going to do it if you said I can't. It's just never going to work. Your brain won't let it happen. Your brain's just going to find reasons that you can't. It's going to agree with you. That's what the ego of your brain does. It's going to agree with you on this. It's not going to argue with you. It's going to say, yeah, you're right. You definitely can't. Here's all the reasons that you can't. Shift. How can I? See how incredibly amazing this very small shift can open up your entire world. Apply this to everything, every problem that you have. Your whole life will change. I promise it will. If you're ready to take a simple step forward, be sure, if you haven't already, to take our quiz at thepickiEatersTest.com. It'll show you where your child is in their feeding journey and what support is actually needed. Okay, are we the right people to help? Maybe not, but we might be. So take our quiz, figure out where you're starting, and then go from there. Okay, we will hopefully see you on the inside, or we'll just chat again next week. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.